I've been doing documentaries, making films, non-fiction or so-called documentaries for the last 15, 16 years. And since 2016, I've started making fiction feature films. Until and unless you make a feature film, you are not a, it's always a debut filmmaker. So my debut film was Lokta Klairambi in Manipuri language, which is also called Lady of the Lake. I think it was screened 2 years back here as part of the documentary workshop here. And after that, I made another feature film called Nine Hills, One Valley. And my latest film is Joseph's Son. It was premiered at Shanghai in the Mini competition last year. So it's right now it's doing festival rounds. It was co-produced by NFDC. The department asked me to talk about this subject maybe because my first film or till now whatever feature films I've done, it's just an extension of what I've been doing. It's like my documentaries only. I always wanted to, because my approach is very realistic in a way. So I always wanted to do my fiction the way I've been doing my documentaries. So, for example, for my first film, what I did was I did a documentary on the subject first, and also to know the location. What I did was I made a film, then I molded my story into the real life. So it was about the fisherman community in Manipur who lives on the lake. So I molded my story in their life, and again those people in the documentary who acted, they again acted in my feature film. That was my approach of, and also to make it more, it's all about making it more authentic, to more convincing. It's not like also it's a style. I think now after 2006, and with the coming of digital, especially with the coming of digital technology, I think this whole thing about reality approach, everybody is doing that. I think people are now bored with this. At least I'm bored with what I've done in the last three feature films. In my second feature film, what I did was I brought in all the victims of, I don't know if you're aware about the ethnic class that is happening in Manipur right now. So there was a huge ethnic class in the 90s in Manipur among the Nagas and Kuki tribes in Manipur. So what I did in my next feature film, a lot of people say when it was selected for Mami and Jogja, so they wrote in the booklet that it's a documentary, but though it's a fiction for me. So what I did was I got in touch with all the victims of that. I brought in around 6 victims of the Kuki Naga class, and then they all acted in the film in the sense I took them to a journey. I was traveling with them in a van throughout Manipur. But then my main character who was taking them around, he was a so-called actor. And non-actor, he was a non-actor, but then he was someone who was told to do certain things. But then I was trying to bring the story out of all these victims of the Kuki Naga class. So even my third film, Joseph's Son, also talks about the ethnic divide in Manipur, and also I brought in all the we have around 35 communities in Manipur. So in right now, I think it was just before this incident what happened in Manipur. It's almost 2 years now. So it was just before that. So what I did was, I can see that something is boiling in Manipur and it can, burst anytime. So what I did was, I wanted to make a real Manipuri film, so-called. So, even the title of the film is in English. It's called Joseph's Son. So it doesn't, the name doesn't belong to any, in the language. It's in English, so it doesn't belong to any community in Manipur. And almost 4 or 5, actors, non-actors definitely, they all acted in the film. One was from the main protagonist is a Naga, which Guru Rupen. I don't know if you're aware about Guru Rupen. He's a famous Naga folk singer. And Guru Rupen was the main actor. Then there was a Kuki boy. So they all were talking in their dialects and communicating in so-called Manipuri or Meitei language. And there was a Romai. So when So my idea of making the film was also about talking about Manipur in a certain way, showing Manipur in a different way, but also it was uh, for me it was important to bring in people from different communities. And also Manipur has a big history of theater. There are a lot of actors, but then when I thought of doing a film, the problem was, uh, if there are no professional actors, the problem for me is, it's very difficult to convince them to act in a natural way. There's all these theater actors. I mean, there are obviously very good people, but then for me, my problem was I thought it won't be easy for these actors to convince them to act in a very natural way. So the easiest way for me by doing documentaries all these years, what I felt by doing documentaries all these years was, whenever I do an interview or whenever I shoot someone, shoot a film, I never roll my camera until unless the person is comfortable in front of the camera. So I thought this can be used in in fiction as well. Why not? Why can't we use that? So I roll my camera when people are comfortable in front of the camera. They forget that the camera is not there. So same thing applies. You can always apply in fiction. So I did the same, and somehow it worked for me. I can show you some clips of the fiction film where this both these protagonists are real fishermen. So maybe we can start with showing some clips and then yeah. See, I'll show you a little bit of AFSPA 1958. This is my, people know me for this documentary, so I thought I should show a little bit of this film. It's AFSPA 1958 means Armed Forces Special Powers Act. I made this film when I was in second year of my SRFTI. I'm an alumni of SRFTI. I went home for vacation, and next day a lady was killed in custody in Manipur for the first time. So it's a diary of events where I started following the characters, and maybe it might be out of context here, but then normally when I was in film school, and before film school, I was already making some educational videos for AVR's Audiovisual Research Center, which is now called EMMRC, which is there in the different regions of the country. So I never used to believe that documentaries can't be scripted. Only when I was in the film school, I realized that it can always be scripted. So now at least you should have something, because everything happens by pitching. So you have to present your project. So you should have at least something in hand. So now it's natural for everyone to have a so-called script or a treatment of the film. So when I did this film, there was no treatment of the film. I just started following the character and the event, and in between I started thinking of the treatment. That's how I made this film. Maybe I'll leave it with Baiju so you can have the screening of the film later on. So this was a brief about AFSP in 1958. So a lady was killed in custody for the first time, and next day, it was also because of the digital technology. So it was in 2004, and my friend, he got a camera from the US. His brother was in the US. That's how we started, without thinking about anything, we just recorded events. Because it was mini DV tapes those days. So this would not have been possible if we were shooting on celluloid. So this was something which came because of the technology. I think it's also very true for the reality or realistic treatment. What I can do in my feature film nowadays is because of the technology also. It's so handy, and you can do a lot of stuff with the new medium. And going through making documentaries for a long time, what I realized is, and which I later on used in my fiction film, to bring out this thin, to blur this thin line is holding the shot. I mean, after this film, I mean, when I pitched this film was pitched at Dockage. I don't know if you're aware about Dockage. So when I pitched it for the first time with a small clip, so it was very funny those days. A lot of people said, "How can you make a film? The camera is taking so much, and it's you're not cutting the shots." So, but then I thought this was the best way to tell the story, and this somehow came. It was there with me for a long time. And so when I made my first feature film, I use this. I mean, most of the time in my documentaries, I try to hold the camera. So holding the camera, it's sometimes it does magic, and it just does something to the shot, to the film. So this is one technique that I always keep in mind while and use it in my fiction as well. So holding some of the shot is something which gives. Sometimes it takes a shot to another level for me. So this is something which I use even now also. Yeah. One more thing which I came to know after shooting my first film, this feature film, is you need to know obviously you need to know the rhythm of the whole place. And one thing which really was this thing of, especially this lady, both of them were in the main protagonists in my documentary. Then they became the protagonists of the feature film as well. So, for this particular shot, that the lady doing this, I took around 50 takes. I remember that. But then what I realized is when you are in a certain rhythm, I mean, maybe the way you're working, you are in a certain mood, then you forget everything. You become, the characters, even though they are non-actors, they become the characters of what I've told them to be, and they're themselves the fishermen, so they can also relate to it maybe. But then I've realized one thing that when you are in that rhythm, so everything it becomes very natural. So because I after the shoot, it was a 10 days shoot. I went back to do some patchwork. It never happened. So it never worked. So then I realized that it's the whole mood, that environment, the way you have been working together for 10 days to whatever 7, 10 days, and when you are in that rhythm or that mood, then everything becomes very natural. So this is very important. I think while shooting, I think for making it more realistic and authentic, so we need to maintain that kind of environment while doing your shoot. So that is one lesson what I learned while doing this.
I just wanted to ask you, just coming from a documentary background, and this is your first fiction film. So, how was your experience of working with actors? And you said they're non-actors, and how have you kind of become more comfortable with actors, and how does that process go for you?
First of all, here it was a bit easy for me in the sense I planned it in such a way that I molded my story. This film is about a guy who accidentally gets a gun and is possessed by the gun. Okay, it talks in another layer. It talks about the whole crisis in Manipur for me. So, but then what happened was I had planned certain things. So I did the documentary, and the documentary was about this eviction drive. They had burned down around 700 huts in the lake, and they were being evicted. So this guy, the characters in my film, in the feature film, is also those fishermen who were evicted, and it was their story. So I just tell them to be in that mood, and then try to bring it out. And there was no dialogues. I just used to tell them the situation, and then try to bring out those elements from them. It was not easy to cut, so I was always, so if you look at the whole film, it's all about holding the shot. So it was one take most of the time. It was all one take, and then that mood, when that mood comes, so everything comes out naturally. So, but then you have to take a lot of takes, again and again, until you think that it's okay, this will work. So these are like, you have to play around with it.
and you have to enjoy it, and not forget the rhythm of the film or the place, or the rhythm of the story. So because every, the way they were delivering the dialogues, the way they were talking about, the way they were walking. So I think that you have to keep those things in mind. Sometimes you forget. When I made my third film, Joseph's Son, it was a traveling film, road film. So the whole mood was very different. Now, even though you want to talk, the scene is serious and you want to talk about certain things, but then you have, because you are traveling from one place to another, and then that's what I learned by doing my third film, that you have to control that. You should know your rhythm, which is very important for making that, blurring that line between reality, fiction and non-fiction, and if you want to approach a fiction in a certain way.
Just as I haven't done any fiction whatsoever, so when I imagine that working with actors, I am interested in working with the form. So I would just, I mean, even though one has a self-reliance that you will know the idea of truth, that when a scene is carried out, you will know that, okay, this is working for me. So how did you kind of, that whole process, कि you're saying, अच्छा, आपने 15-20 take लिया, 50 take लिया to kind of get the right, but how was that process for you as someone coming from a documentary form, going into fiction and being able to identify that this is truth in the scene, and this is how I like it, this is convincing? Because I would imagine it's very like, it's anxiety inducing that when you're in the process.
It's not easy, but then I think it's also about the experience of working. So I think, you need, it's also about your experience. And then I also, it was, I had this plan in my mind to make it like my documentary. So I was approaching it that way as well. So certain things I planned in a certain way. Even the lights and everything was, it was mostly all natural lights. And, we were in the middle of the lake, which was like 1 hour drive from the nearest shore. And no motor boats were allowed in the lake. Even now also, if you go there, because there are a lot of nets everywhere. So you can't go there. So you have to go by the local, that small boat. So everything, and there was no light, it was all solar lamps. So it was a kind of experiment, and all my classmates, they all were very excited. They all came together. This is also one way of, now a lot of people do that. I mean, so when I made it was a zero budget film. All my classmates, my cameraman is Senat Jalal from Kerala, and I think his latest film was this Baiju. Senat's latest film was that black and white film. Brahmayug, yeah. So Senat was very excited. He came there without, I didn't pay anybody. So my editor, we have been working together since our diploma, continuity days from the film school. He also came. So Kanto Mazumdar, who did the sound, he is now the HOD of sound department in SRFK. We all got together and made this film because somehow we felt we can do something. It was nothing new. I don't think it was new for cinema. A lot of people have already done that, but for us it was a new thing. We wanted to do something different. That's why I also really like documentaries. For me, documentary is something not like fiction, where you have a certain way of telling stories. In documentary, I believe that every subject has its own treatment, and somehow if I can apply that in fiction, that is also one thing which I always wanted to do. Because in documentaries, I think the subject decides the treatment of the film, and it's always challenging to make a documentary. So why can't we bring that in fiction as well? So that was always my challenge, and but sometimes it's not easy, because fiction is also related with even documentaries are that way. But then when you want to bring out emotions and feelings, sometimes you want to go closer to it, and sometimes it doesn't work. Maybe the second take it might not work. And then to bring the character to that level of mood, because they are non-actors. We are mostly working with non-actors. If there are professional actors, definitely I think that would be good. Yeah. But then when you're working in this kind of environment, it's mostly mostly independent filmmakers doing this. Because our budget is always limited, and also we want to try different things. Yeah.
Also, I had one question, like how much time difference was there when you made the documentary and then decided to do it in a similar way in fiction? Like the time gap in between.
Well, I went for the recce of the film in 2011. Then I finished the film the documentary in 2014, 13 or 14, yeah. Then I shot the fiction in 2015, and in 16 it was premiered. Yeah, yeah.
So the actors were still in that
Yeah,
of
it
the
was,
documentary.
it was there.
And how much of their life like influence? Like was it like exactly the way the documentary shot you just made it into a fiction script and screenplay, or like you decided that certain scenes or sequences that the journey they have had, to try to manipulate in certain way and make it a sequence out of it? Like how much of their journey devised the screenplay?
I think it was, the fiction was very different from the documentary. Documentary obviously was about this never-dying attitude of this fisherman community, which became the treatment of my film for the documentary, because they were not ready to leave the lake. It was the government told them to leave the lake, as I even this documentary, I never had a treatment of the film. So it was during the shoot that I realized that this can be the treatment of the film. That the government was coming and destroying the huts all the time, telling them to leave the place, but they were not leaving. Again, they used to build houses and live on the lake. So that became the and finally, what I realized is they are forced to prove that they are the natives of the lake. So how do you show that? So that became the treatment of my film. So I realized that the way they row the boat, the way they fish, there's a certain rhythm in the way they do things, which we might not be able to do it, because they are there. That's why they are able to, have that kind of rhythm. So that became the treatment of my documentary. And later on, what happened was, since it was their story, and I also heard them saying that, मेरे पास बंदूक होता तो so that became the point for me. My banduk story and their frustration, that became this thing. And I think then after that it was easy, because it was their life that I was projecting in the fiction as well.
So my question is that when you are trying to do something like this, which is fictional, how do you approach scripting, and do you constantly rewrite your scripts while you are shooting?
It's not about shooting. You have to always have a script, either a documentary or a fiction. So you always have a script in hand. The improvisation always happens, even in the even while doing your post-production, editing table. So this will continue, but then you have a certain plan or certain treatment in mind while approaching a subject. So that you have to be very clear from the very beginning. So I think that.
The second part to this question was that.
But then let me tell you one thing. What problem I'm facing right now after doing 3 feature films like this is I don't always write my scripts properly. Because I am in the habit of doing documentaries. So what in document, that in documentaries, in non-fiction, treatment is the main, like a script, that, right? And for me, I might differ. For me, in documentaries, the treatment is very important. Treatment is, you see everything. The visual style, the way you start the film, the middle, ending, everything is there in the treatment. So sometimes people ask you to give an 8-page treatment, or no, maybe 2 pages treatment or something like that. But so normally the way I approach documentary is that way. So I forgot writing feature film scripts. I did it in the institute, but then I was making documentaries for almost 15 years, so I forgot writing script. But then when I did the first draft of my first feature film, it was all, think it was hardly around 30 pages. You know, normally, so you're taught that, you know, one page of our final draft is 1 minute. So I thought it might not work. So and that's why probably my old films are around 70 minutes and 80 minutes, something like that. It never goes beyond that. So I think if you're doing a fiction film, writing is very important. You know, this whole thing about authenticity, reality comes later. That's the treatment, you know, how you approach it. So first of all, you have to write your scripts properly. That's what I'm going to do in my, I'm already working on my fourth film, so I've written it properly. Now it's a 120-page script. So that is very important. You have to write your script properly, then, because you are always carried away. You know, there is this whole thing about film school, or maybe here also, film school students, film trained students, making only a certain kind of film. Right? I think a lot of people know that. Even we people now realize, ये film school का लोग नहीं बनाया होगा. You know, so that should not be the case. That's what I'm saying. You know, we are always carried away by the style, treatment, cinematic language. So ultimately, it's also about the story, the feelings, the emotion. But we are always, as a film student, we are always carried away by cinematic language, the visual style, you know, the sound. So you know, it's a combination of everything. So we should not forget that. So we should not let people say this is a film school film. You know? Yeah.
So the second question was that when you traditionally approach fictional films, there is a rhythm that you have in your mind while doing a scene, right? But when you're doing it with mainly real people and in improvised scenarios, how do you control that? Do you face situations where the thing which you have imagined it taking more time than it is required, or it's happening more quickly than it probably should happen? How do you control that?
It's not easy, but I think you should know how to deal with it. Sometimes it doesn't work, but then there is always a limit, because you know, you should know that you are working with a group of people. I think it's the way you handle it. It's like management. You know, you should know this is not working. You know, this might work. Sometimes a lot of things changes. You know, it's not just a script. A lot of things happens on the set. But then what I normally do is I'll just, if something is going wrong and if I'm not able to think properly, sometimes it happens, you're blank, you know, suddenly you are not able to think anything, you know. Then I will just keep quiet and don't shoot for the day. You know. I'll just go back and then maybe I'll come back again. So it's a lot of, I mean, you have to deal with it. I mean, yeah. But the most important thing, what we never learned in the film school is discipline. So I think what is very important while doing everything is discipline. So, you know, you may be, yeah, चलता है ये है वो सब ठीक है, लेकिन shooting के time पे, you know, you have to be very careful, you have to be very disciplined, at least during your, because this is what we do. You know, you have fun all the time in other places, but I never tolerate anything during the shoot. You know, film school ka you guys know, you know, we do everything on the set, and that, I think, that continues until unless you are serious about it, and you know how films are being made. So many people are involved, your time, money. So it's not like other art forms. You have to be very careful. Even though even if you're making a very small, low budget film, then you know, without money you can never make films. So for that, discipline is very important. See, when I started this journey, this film, I was already making film for a long time. But then I realized one thing, you know, when you saw the clip of the first documentary, right? So that was the first time, probably in Manipur, people, you know, even the forces, they're facing camera in such a way. I mean, after this, when I think after 1 month, a guy did self-immolation, and after that it was very difficult for me to shoot. That's where my documentary ends also. You know, after that people became very cautious, especially the security people. But then what I realized is, even while editing, you know, sometimes I felt, I wanted to say this because I think it's a bit related to what you're saying. sometimes I felt while editing, we felt that they were acting in front of the camera. Sometimes the security people, they're just beating them because the camera is there. I mean, I felt that I was also a bit responsible for what was happening in front of me. So camera is a very strange thing. But nowadays, people are really fed up of camera. Okay, with the coming of digital technology, forget about mobiles. I'm not talking. I'm taking you back 10 years back. Now with the mobile, though, people will they're crazy. They don't want to see cameras and mobiles. If you're going to a place to shoot, you have to first never take a camera. First, be part of them. Win their this thing. Then only you approach. Even if you might be very close to them or whatever, don't roll the camera until unless they are comfortable, you are comfortable there. So that way only you can do it. You're dealing with humans. And with the technology, I think they are really fed up of cameras nowadays. And also they think that they are being exploited. And most of the time when we are doing documentaries, nowadays you have funding from outside and people get money to make films, but most of the time it's not the case. Documentary today, even I think 99% of the films being made in this country are self-funded. So you have to be very careful about this. Because you want to do something, you want to tell their story, but then they are also fed up with all this kind of news camera. A lot of people comes there because we are always dealing with human lives. So you have to be very careful about that, and only then when you win their confidence, then you start shooting, and only then you'll be able to make a good film also. Otherwise, you will never be able to make a good film out of it.
I have a question. So this is specific to the fiction film, right? So you mentioned that you worked with non-actors and a story that was really kind of their story, but you juxtaposed a fictional what-if sort of question or a scenario there. So my question is, during the filming process, did they ever feel like telling their own story verbally, or because journalism is such a it's a thing that people are so habituated to, did they ever try to address the camera themselves, or did they try to speak to you directly, or what was the process of working with them, and how did you navigate this kind of the camera being between them and you?
Short, what do you want to say?
Whether they tried to address the camera directly at any point during your time with them.
No, fiction was a different thing. I mean, we already made a documentary with them, and then we started doing the fiction. So it was a very different kind of approach. Also, what was good for me was I made a documentary, and earlier days when we used to even this documentary that I made on the lake, what happened was, being a film student, you want to explore it cinematically and all those things. But then finally, they don't want a film like that. I mean, they also want to show the film to NGOs, to the government, to tell their problems. So nowadays, I forgot this guy's name. If you're making a film, documentary, then you should always have two cuts. One for yourself and one for them. And maybe a shorter version. Yeah, it's until unless you do that, they think that you are coming there. Also, it's also true. You are coming there with a purpose to do something on your own. You're not doing anything for them. It's also true in a sense, because they want a very direct kind of film also, to show it to other people, NGOs, government, and to tell their story. So it's always good to have two cuts. Director's cut and for them also. So in this case, I also made two cuts for them. I made a shorter version, 15-minute film for them. So that way I won their confidence, and they were quite happy with me. I bought a laptop for them, so that there is an organization. Instead of giving money, I bought a laptop for them so that they can use it for their office purpose. And that way slowly, then I bought with the award. Then I helped them buy a bigger board. And so you have to, they become, they're still friends with me. That's what documentary does. You know, after that, things becomes easier. You know, yeah, I mean, during the fiction shoot, it was more about what I wanted from them, and you know, yeah, I wanted to say something and I forgot. Okay.
You've already made a documentary on how we handled them on the shoot because you already did a film with them. That film is very different from the film from the fiction.
Yeah, since it
So
was,
it's
they were
mostly-
evicted from the
Mostly
plane,
the question is about
how I handle the
what
actors.
is your method of actors entry.
Also, what I normally do is I choose actors, certain people who look similar to my characters. It's not like he knows acting, but I take people, like suppose if he fits in my film, so I will approach him to be my actor. And maybe he might not be acting. I'll just tell him to walk from here and there, and then maybe take 5-6 shots, and if I think this works, then okay. So these are trial and error for me. I mean, but then faces are very important for me. He should look the way I want him to be. So faces are very important for me. But then while dealing with the fisherman community, one thing was it was their story. You know, it was always their story, and I always take them to their stories so that it's easier for them to relate to it. And even the dialogues are they're their own dialogues. Sometimes I improvise, but then that always happens in all my films, even if there are actors. But I always improvise my dialogues.
Sorry, Mr. Kumar. Actually, we have two questions. One question is by me and another is by Ruslan. My question is that as we saw your trailers, there is, how to say, the struggle of people. When you make such kind of process film, how do you protect yourself psychologically in order to be able to...
You're talking about the documentary?
Yes, that we watch the film, they
Yeah.
torture the people, and psychologically as a director, how do you protect?
See, if I go back, you are there as a filmmaker to show this to the outside world. You know, you want to tell this story. So I somehow, that thing is always there. So you don't need to really, you can't be so much, what do you say, attached to your subject. You know the problems, but you're there as a filmmaker. Sometimes it's not easy, but then you have to deal with it. And your primary objective is to make the film and show the reality to the world. Yeah.
And the second question, this is a question by Ruslan. So he says that in your experience of making documentary, you saw any person you get inspired or any topic, idea or protagonist. You take your time for pre-production or you directly go to the process and during the process decide what the film will be. And if you did both, one like directly go and in another example you just took your time to make pre-production, which one is better for a documentary, to have prepared or just to directly enter?
I think you should prepare first. So that approach is very good, and especially now that is called, I think for documentaries, it's called research. So it's research. You have to do a proper research, then only. So it becomes more important now because people are fed up with cameras. So you need to go there, and do the research properly. Then only people will believe in you and open in front of you. So that is very important.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also one thing I forgot to tell you, since I'm a documentary filmmaker, even my fiction, all my idea comes from Delhi happenings around me. So if you look at my journey, all my films, documentary or whatever, it's the journey of Manipur, the life I've lived in Manipur. So till now, all my films, if I'm making a film today, it's about what's affecting me as a person right now. So even my fictions are like that. So yeah, that is one thing which is very common in all my films. So I mean, a lot of people say, you have made a film called AFSK 1958. Are you an activist? So, but then I don't consider myself as an activist, but I tell stories which affects me as a person at that particular moment. So all my stories comes from there, but it's really difficult when you are doing a fiction because you have ideas, but you have to write it. So one thing I've realized is writing itself is an art form. It's a very big thing. So if you're a filmmaker, if you can write, fine, but then you should always collaborate with a writer to do your feature, especially your fiction feature films, feature length. Short stories, I think you'll be able to do it, but then you should always, I think, if you're working on a fiction, it's better to always write it with someone who's experienced in writing. We are good in visual and other art form, but yeah, sometimes it's difficult. Maybe, but a lot of people write their own films. Yeah? I'm not discouraging that, but for me, that thing really, I think it's lacking in me. That's what I learned. I'm just sharing my experiences, okay? Well, as I said, I always have a treatment in mind, especially for documentaries, and I think you have to have an understanding with the editor as well. You need a very good editor for documentaries. Huh? Don't compromise the editor for your documentaries. You need a very good editor to structure your film, because you have certain visualization, but then you want to approach a film in a certain way. Like I made a film called Mr. India. It's about Mr. Pradeep, who is an HIV positive guy who became a bodybuilder after knowing his HIV status, and then wins the Mr. India title, bodybuilder. So it was like I approached the subject like a tree. My structure was, I wanted to do it like a tree. So it was like he was going for this tournament at Thrissur, Mr. India contest at Thrissur. So the train journey became, like the tree trunk stem, and his past life was the branches. This is also one way of, that was one way of approaching a treatment for me. Maybe you can see a certain design, and maybe that can become the treatment of your film. I really enjoy doing that. Somehow documentary is very interesting that way, how to structure. But then I think it is the editor who somehow helps you to do that and show it to you. So you need a very good editor. I'm lucky that I've been working with my friend who is my he is Sankho. He has edited all my films from my first continuity film till now. So that way, even our conversation starts from the very initial stage, from the idea itself. That way, this was one film which was very easy to edit. This Apspa 1958. It was like a diary of events, and we just wanted to show what was happening. Because those days, it was released, it was premiered at Mumbai International Film Festival 2006. And those days, I just wanted, the whole treatment was, I wanted the rest of the country to just see and decide. So that was the treatment of my film. Though observational documentary was not in the scene those days, people were fed up with observational documentaries. But then I thought that was the best way. Because as a kid, growing in Manipur, when I came out, people used to talk about Manipur, but nobody actually knew what was happening. Unlike now, a lot of people knows about it. I'm talking about the 90s when I came to Delhi for the first time. Nobody knew where Manipur was, even, was it a part of India? So that way, I always, that became the treatment of my film. I want the people of India to know what was really, experience what was really happening in Manipur, and then decide. That became the treatment of my film. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, please.
What made you want to try your hand at fiction filmmaking, and what did you get out of fiction filmmaking that was different from the non-fiction filmmaking?
Well, I grew up watching Hindi films and Hollywood films, so documentary was something which came to me very late in my life. I never knew that people can. It was maybe Discovery Channel, and it was only when we went to the film school that we started watching documentaries properly. So, but then I think it was that very natural for me, for coming from a place like Manipur to where I came into films to tell about Manipur, stories about Manipur. So it became very natural for me, and then I started getting awards, and then slowly funding. So I उसमें ही चला गया. So I always wanted to make fiction, but my approach was always realistic. So maybe.
So on that note of approach, when we're making documentary or a non-fiction film to say so, the film takes shape as and when things are happening. In the sense that as a filmmaker, when you're on the streets with the people who are protesting and right in the center of the riot, in the eye of the riot, whatever happens there, it impacts you as a filmmaker as well. And that impacts what next movement your body subconsciously or consciously will take. And that also will impact the kind of film which will come out eventually. Now when the impact comes while you are at the heart of the action of making the film, which is not premeditated as it is in fiction filmmaking, what becomes the driving force of fiction for you?
It's not. I think it's not an easy question. Or, I think the idea is already there. You want to make a certain kind of film, and which is like my first film. I wanted to talk about the gun culture in Manipur. So to tell that story, I mean, obviously, my whole idea is to tell that story, that gun culture. Those days, whoever was having a gun in Manipur was like a king. Even either the security or the insurgents. So that, because of that, I wanted to make a film, but in a fictional way. So that I think that itself was the driving force of making the fiction film or whatever, to develop that whole story.
I mean, even just a passion for a topic could be a driving force. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
asking. But what
Yeah.
I'm asking is, in a non-fiction film, the treatment, we may have an idea of the sort of treatment we want, but when something happens right in front of us, for example, I am with a kid, I am teaching the kid, that is my project, that is what I'm working upon, but one fine day, it so happens that the father comes in and tells that, sorry, your mother who had been ill for such a long time has passed away now. Now, whatever impact the kid would have, I would also have some sort of an impact, and that will shape the film, which I would not have any way of knowing before. So this new information which is coming while I'm in the process of creating something shapes the film which will eventually come out, which cannot be premeditated at all, which cannot be reshot, or even if it can be, it won't have the same impact as a non-fiction film will have in the fiction. Now, these things impact non-fiction filmmaking, but when you are making a fictional film, where does the impact of your narrative come from? Let's say it's a film.
So
fiction
you're
film.
saying that when we are making a documentary, something can happen in between, and it can change or it might not also. Okay, it's up to you how you want to approach it. Maybe that might not be ideal for what you wanted to do. You have to open your eyes to what's happening around you, but that might not be part of your larger narrative as well. If it is a documentary, you have to keep your eyes open and you think whether you are going to take that, or is it really important for what the central idea of your film. So that also plays around in documentary. But in fiction, I think everything is already fixed. But but sometimes it's all sometimes in the set you might feel something, but major changes might not happen in fiction. Yeah, definitely. So I think what you mean to say is, in a way, documentaries are more. Do you mean to say that? Okay, we can move on. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can show the trailer of my next two films.
ꯀꯔꯝꯕ ꯃꯈꯜꯒꯤ ꯑꯉꯥꯡꯅꯣ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯀꯥꯟꯒꯤ ꯅꯤꯁꯥ ꯄꯨꯁꯥ ꯗ꯭ꯔꯒꯁ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯀꯥꯞꯄ ꯆꯥꯕ ꯇꯧꯕꯗ ꯁꯤ ꯃꯇꯥꯡ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯒꯗꯤ ꯃꯔꯤ ꯂꯩꯅꯕꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯎꯒꯗꯤ
ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯁꯦ ꯂꯝꯐꯦꯜꯒꯤ ꯃꯣꯔꯛꯇꯅꯦ ꯑꯟꯑꯥꯏꯗꯦꯟꯇꯤꯐꯥꯏഡ് ꯇꯧꯗꯕ ꯕꯣꯗꯤ ꯑꯃ ꯂꯩꯔꯦꯅ ꯄꯥꯎ ꯂꯥꯛꯑꯦ.
Forgot to say something. And one thing which I'm not telling you to follow, but normally I don't use music in my films because I think music is very. I don't understand music. It's very strong, and when it is strong, it kills the visual. It should be balanced. But here I could not stop doing it. First two feature films, there's no music. And here, because Guru Ruben is a very popular folk singer, Naga, and then since he is there, so I thought, why not use this music? So this is probably the first time I was using music. But normally, even in documentaries, I don't use music. It's not because, it's not a style, but I am very afraid of music. Like music is so strong, and sometimes just if I don't do it properly, it just kills the. Yeah, it helps in a certain way, but then also if you don't know it, I mean, I'm afraid to use it. So normally I don't use music.
In a situation where you are documenting, like most of the documentaries, there is a state ka narrative, and then there is also a narrative of the people. So the discussion was about the idea of balancing the narrative, right? And right now you also said that people call me that, are you an activist? But I said, no, I'm not an activist. So this idea where we as a documentary filmmakers have that conflict, that what is the amount of balance and how to achieve it, because outside the ambit of the documentary, there is a stronger narrative that is flowing, where the state is all the more powerful to control the narrative. Probably this piece that you're making will honestly represent the actual power dynamics, and where actually you're telling the voice of the people who are getting affected by it. Do you take that burden that, okay, probably in order to just balance it out and show that, okay, there are both the sides, how do you navigate it? That's my question.
It's very easy for me in the sense I'm making a film because I believe in certain things. So I never try to balance things. I mean, I believe in certain things, so I want to tell that story, so I just tell that story. You can easily see if you're trying to balance it, you're trying to please people. No, I never do that. I just say whatever I like. Probably that's why a lot of people call me an independent filmmaker. I do whatever I like. I don't bother about audience or whatever, because if you start thinking about people, I mean, it's not easy for me. Probably if I'm doing a film for children, I was also thinking that if I'm doing a film for children, then maybe I will think about audience. So, but then it really affects me. And till now, I've done, it's almost 23 years of my life, making films. So, I've never, I would not have been, would not have been possible for me to do whatever I've done today if I started thinking about people, what people will think about. Yeah, definitely, I think, you get frustrated, you get, when your film is not selected for festival, sometimes you have, as a human, you have expectations, but then I'm happy that I'm able to do whatever I like till now.
No, so it's not more, the question is not more about what the audience will perceive it, it's about you as an individual, as a filmmaker.
So that's what I'm saying. I do whatever, because I'm making the film because I believe in a certain thing. So it can be a fiction or a non-fiction. Thank you so much.